iCAN. My name is Gina Calarco. I work for LabCorp, which is a laboratory services company in the United States, but globally it also has a drug development side where we do sponsored clinical trial work, and that's the side of the company I sit on. I'm a senior director of strategy and planning, and I sit within the rare diseases, advanced therapies, and pediatrics team. So what that means is I help develop operational strategies, how we conduct clinical protocols in pediatric and rare disease populations. My background is I am a pediatric nurse. I began my career in the neonatal intensive care unit. And most of my career has been spent in the pediatric space, and the last almost 20 years within clinical trial work. I will say I also have personally over the last year have joined the land of the unwell, having a cancer diagnosis, and that has contributed greatly to my personal knowledge and layered into the work I do, having experienced such a big illness and treatment pathway that isn't the easiest either. So it kind of plays into how I think about patients in clinical trials. I think listening is a really essential trait of leaders. How can you lead if you're not listening to what your employees or your patients or whatever you're working towards, if you're not listening to the true needs of the project or your staff, you're likely to come across more barriers and potentially problems. So I think listening is a really important skill of leaders. Having empathy, compassion, I mentioned mindfulness, understanding at a core root value place. For my role, it's what the patients and families are going through and need, and then I have empathy and compassion for the physicians and nurses that work with those families, putting myself in their shoes, understanding what they need. And then on the flip side, the pharmaceutical companies I work with, understanding their needs and the shoes they walk in so that I find ways to meet their needs is really important as well. So in leadership, it's not always about what I need to get done in order to get something done from my end. I may need to help someone else, and considering that broader vantage point or view and broader scope of the work I do, that it's not just the work I do, but the work I do impacts others, is really critical as a leader. On the flip side, I think curiosity also comes with a sense of humor and a willingness to fail. So not everything I do always works out, and so, or the ideas I have will work out. Early, I like to work with my colleagues and develop a community of champions around me that I can go to ask for help when needed, or maybe experts in their functional area that they work in. But I have to find that balance early on, over asking or over communicating or offering too much knowledge or too many emails. I learned right away that burns people out, and having that balance to know when to touch base, when to, how to give information and receive information. It may be a customized approach per person, or it may come kind of effortlessly with the teams I'm working with. But sometimes I fail and I over communicate and have to then, or I don't communicate enough, and then I have to adjust, apologize, or remedy it as best I can. But being okay with failure. Failure can be also projects in the clinical trial space. Sometimes we want to think outside the box for solutions, and those solutions may not always work. A lot of times we're looking for recruitment solutions, and working with patient advocacy groups is really, really impactful. but not all diseases have patient advocacy groups that are impactful. And so we may suggest it and it not work on one trial and it worked great on another. And that, sitting with that kind of failure, you need to learn from it and then move forward and remain curious about trying something different and new. And having humor, being able to laugh at myself, admitting that I don't know everything and that some things are a guess, is important in the way I lead. And then finally, I think kind of mentioned being the calm in the storm. A lot of the teams I work with are in a crisis type situation or really tight timelines, or like they have questions and the patient's there and they need to talk to the family. And just being a calm presence can help de-escalate stressful situations. And I think that's really important as a leader, and goes back to listening, knowing when to interject, knowing the right tone to utilize, by kind of listening and then mimicking or calming that tone down. I think the calming effect I've received many times through the years also comes back to my need to cheerlead. I really want to motivate people and keep them positive. The work I do is hard. Some of these trials may be only looking for 12 patients across the whole globe, and that means a site may only enroll one patient for the life of the trial, and that's a lot of work, and it's slow going, and you can come up on a lot of roadblocks, a lot of tense people who want to get things done quickly, and you can't just make things happen that quickly all the time. But keeping it positive, being a cheerleader for these teams, for the patients and the families and the sites, is really important. So as a leader, I feel that that's a key role of mine, is to be a cheerleader, be a calming influence. Other traits that I think are important are I go back to my leadership pathway, always saying yes. Maybe not always saying yes, but having that openness to try something new. Helping out with someone who works on your team that may be below you, or stretching yourself and helping above, going out on a limb, working a little bit extra to do something you're passionate about and help a team that may be outside of your job responsibilities. Be solution-oriented and a helper. Having that growth mindset and curiosity is really important for a leader. You have to be able to accept the failures, learn from them, and then change either your direction or your pathway or your ideas. That flexibility with that solution and growth mindset